Always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world for
Is that going to
For his work, he's endured beatings and received death threats. For his efforts and courage, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize last year, along with Pakistani youth activist Malala Yousafzai. Indian rights activist Kailash Satyarthi has long campaigned against child labor.
I refuse to accept that the world is so poor when just 1 week of military expenditure can bring all the children to classrooms.
He may not be as well known as Malala, but his contribution to free children from exploitation and abuse is enormous. In the last 35 years, Kailash Satyarthi has rescued some 80,000 children from illegal and hazardous work across India. But child labor remains a serious issue across the world. According to the International Labour Organization, there are 168 million children working around the world. Kailash Satyarthi says the Nobel Prize is a recognition and honor to those children who are still deprived of their childhood. But can it help eradicate child labor? This week on Talk to Al Jazeera, a conversation with Nobel Peace Prize winner Kailash Satyarthi. Kailash Satyarthi, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So you've been doing your work without a lot of recognition for decades now. You've always kept a low profile in your fight against child labor, and you were able to achieve so much in the last 3 decades and a half, 35 years, I believe. Do you think that this recognition that you are getting today will help or hinder your efforts?
It is a big moral boost for those who are fighting on the ground, and they feel associated with me because I am one of them. I am a very ordinary activist. I was always
You're
ordinary
no longer
activist.
an ordinary activist.
No, I am.
Will you still be able to go out and raid the factories as you've been doing?
I could not do, unfortunately, so far. I talk to the parents every morning or every next morning if they are sitting with me. I listen to them carefully. I tell my people to go immediately and act. I am getting a lot of letters from such people, and I do it. But I will go. I will go.
Now, much has been made about you sharing the Nobel Peace Prize with Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani teenager, about your contrast, the young girl, the old man, the Pakistani,
I'm not
the
old,
Indian.
I'm still young, I'm full of
anyway,
energy.
the Pakistani, the Indian,
Right.
the Muslim, the Hindu, the world-renowned and the lesser-known, which is you. But you still feel that you have a lot in common with Malala Yousafzai.
Definitely, because our fight is for children. The children have to live in safe environment. Children must be protected from all kind of violence and atrocities and abuse and exploitation. All children must attend the schools and get the best quality education. So it's an agenda.
Let me ask you this. Malala Yousafzai was just 16 years old when she stood before the United Nations and lectured the General Assembly about how to achieve world peace. It was a very powerful political message that she gave that day at the UN General Assembly. But some would say today that she's become a very marketable Western commodity, if you will, a media darling. She has a PR firm handling her today. Isn't that also, Kailash, a form of child exploitation, using a child for political means, to deliver a political message?
Well, as far as I understood that she has the passion for that. She has passion for education. And that is the most important thing in any child and any adult or any person. And that is something which has to be celebrated.
But a lot of Western politicians now are, as you've said, I mean, having their photos taken with Malala Yousafzai because it's a good thing, I guess, to be seen with her. Isn't she being exploited a little bit?
I don't know. Actually, it's up to them and it's up to Malala. How can I comment on it?
Your organization, Kailash Satyarthi, Save the Childhood, has transformed the lives of tens of thousands of children in your native India. I've read that, and you can correct me, that you freed some 80,000 children?
More than that. Physically,
That's
I mean,
outstanding
yeah.
figure.
So these children were physically rescued by
Right.
me and my friends.
By you going into factories, workshops, brothels,
Yeah,
where they were
yeah,
being
yeah,
exploited
yeah.
sexually.
That's right.
So I imagine that you've taken grave risks in your work. Tell us about some of the dangers that you faced, your experience.
Well, the notorious people who engaged children in slavery, the slave masters and traffickers are powerful people. They are like mafia. They are well connected with the local police and authorities. They earn a lot of black money. Many people might be knowing that human trafficking is the largest illicit trade in the world today. The latest reports suggest that $150 billion are earned illegally every year out of human trafficking, and more than half of the victims are children. So child trafficking is among the biggest illicit trade in the world. So these people are powerful people. So
They're powerful. Who are they exactly? How well connected? Are they people in India, for instance? Are they people that are members of parliament, as you've suggested, that are perhaps government ministers even?
They are connected definitely with the local police. Some of them are politicians. Some of them are connected definitely with the government authorities. It depends, but they are there. They are powerful people. So risks are always there. I lost 2 of my colleagues. One was shot at, one was beaten to death. I have scars on almost everywhere on my body. My left leg is broken, just above the ankle. Then my right shoulder is broken. I have serious injuries there. I have my backbone injuries. I have my head injuries. So it was obvious, but I accepted it as a challenge. Each time when these people try to kill me, I realized that I am on right path.
So you never feared for your life? You never thought once to quit because it wasn't worth it, perhaps?
It is worth, because when I started challenging child slavery in India and then in Nepal, in Pakistan, and other parts of the world, I realized that this is an area where somebody has to work. And who is that somebody? If I am not me, who? If I don't do now, then when? I cannot wait for that. I cannot wait if my own son or my own daughter is kidnapped, is enslaved. I will not wait for it 1 day, 1 minute. I will do every possible thing. And if a mother is coming to me and knocking my door that please help me, why not I should do?
So of the tens of thousands of children that you have rescued, was there a particular child or a particular story that marked you, perhaps by its brutality, or that you still think about today? I know there are a lot of stories, obviously, but is there one that stood out particularly for you?
There are many stories,
Yes.
but many. Actually, every child matters.
Yes.
Even if one single child is in slavery, it is the scourge or a black spot on the face of humanity. So every child worth when I freed him. For example, I went to free a group of people, children, women and men, who were working in a stone quarry. And this is particularly the place.
This is in India.
This is in India. This is owned by a very powerful politician, illegally run mining. So nobody knows about who is the legal owner. But when we tried to rescue those people with the help of police declined to go with us because they were powerful people. Finally, I decided to go along with some of my friends. We waited for the whole night and realized that very early morning, around 4 or 5 o'clock is the most appropriate time to go, because this watchman or a gunman used to go for freshened up, so that is the right time. I went there and rescued the group of people. I brought all those children in my car, and I was driving car because I drive myself in such dangerous situations because the driver can run away or anything would happen.
Right.
So I decided to take the children with me. And the adults were coming in another big truck, but most of the children were with me. I realized that they were traumatized. They were having some injuries while working in the stone quarrying. I wanted to make them ease, so I asked them that there are some bunch of bananas lying in the back. Why don't you take those bananas? The children looked in the back, and they said, "What is that?" I said, "Take it." So one girl picked up a banana and said that this is, I've never seen such onion.
They'd never seen a banana.
Yeah, they never seen the banana. So she said that this is not an onion. What kind of onion is that? Then another boy looked at it and said, "Oh, it looks like a potato, but it's neither a potato. What kind of potato is it?" So they were struggling whether it's potato or banana, because the potato or onion, because they have not seen banana in their life. But I said, "This is a fruit, this is sweet, please eat it." And I was running fast because I have to get rid of those, the danger. Right. Suddenly I saw that a girl was eating banana without peeling it. And then I realized that this simple thing is the difference between the slavery and freedom. This is the gap, hundreds of years gap of civilization. It's not so simple that a child slave to not understand what banana is and eating without peeling. So I taught them how to do it, and they started eating. After a while, the girl asked me, in anger, she was just sitting beside me, and she was 6-year-old. She said in her language, "Why didn't you come early?" I realized that it was not because of banana, but it was because of so much atrocities, so much hardships she has seen. She was angry, and I realized that her childhood is coming back, and she's complaining. She has a trust in someone like me, and I feel worthy in my life that she's asking me this question, that why didn't you come early? And this is the question perhaps she asked to the whole world.
It is a very moving story, Kailash. What a lot of people don't understand is that the Indian Parliament has passed legislation against child labor. Why is it not being enforced?
Well, I tell you that not only Indian Parliament, globally, 179 parliaments have passed an international law to combat the worst forms of child labor as a sense of urgency. Almost 165 countries have passed another law which is asking for minimum age of employment must not be less than 14 years in developing countries and 15 years in industrialized countries. India also has its own law, though India has not passed either of these international treaties, but India has a law. But these laws are really not implemented because we don't have that amount of global, national and local political will.
There's no will.
There's no will. We don't prioritize our children. There is no comprehensive, holistic thinking and approach to solve the problem of children globally. Children themselves, those children who are most vulnerable, most marginalized.
So the politicians are now being disingenuous when they say they want to toughen the laws because there's no will. Is that what you're saying?
The aggregate result is like that.
Right.
Of course, there are, as I said before, that there are individual politicians everywhere in the world who care for children.
There's a quote, Kailash, that says that the worth of a civilization can be judged by the way it treats its women. And women in India, as we know, have struggled against many handicaps and social evils in what is essentially a patriarchal society where men, of course, there's a strong preference for sons over daughters in India, which leads to selective abortions, sex-selective abortions. Baby girls are killed after birth in India. And those who survive face discrimination. They face rape in India. And, this discrimination is not just visible in rural areas, but also in urban areas of India, across all levels of society. How do you address these deep-rooted social attitudes in your work?
The good thing which is happening now is that none other than the Prime Minister of India has taken it up very, very seriously. He has launched a huge program a new flagship program under the aegis of Government of India, what he calls educate girls, protect girls, or protect daughters, something like that. So protect daughters. So he himself and the government is aiming at it more rigorously than ever before. So
Right.
that's a good sign.
But even if laws are put in place, shouldn't the fundamental cultural issues be addressed first to save and protect India's women?
It is not about India. Let me tell you, the discrimination against women and girls is a common phenomenon
It
in
is.
most developing
But
countries.
we do hear a lot about India and rape, for instance. I mean, just in 2012,
But
24,000
I
rape
tell you
cases
that
reported in India.
The sexual harassment cases are very much in America. Sexual abuse are very much in some parts of Europe, including
Why do we
India,
just hear
Africa.
about India then?
Maybe media, thanks to the media perhaps. But it is serious. Even if single incident of rape or single incident of sexual abuse of a girl happens anywhere on this earth, this is not good.
But
This
you
is
have
against
to
the
agree and
civilization.
admit though, that
we
it's a
work.
serious issue
It's
in
a
your
serious
country.
issue, and we work it actually. We work in India about it actually. We try to sensitize the people. We try to change the mindset of the people. We try to engage all sections of society to help. And the girls themselves, the best part in India after this very infamous case of gang rape happened in Delhi a couple of years ago, it has resulted in tremendous awareness, and the girls themselves, the young girls are taking lead role, the women are taking lead role. They are coming out very strongly. Earlier, because of social taboo or because of feeling shy, they used to hide the abuse against them, but now they are coming out openly. They are going to the court. They are
So there is
registering.
change.
There's
Change
change.
is happening.
The change in the society is also happening beside what the government is trying to do.
You know, for many people around the world, I want to come back to India before we broaden this discussion a little bit. For many people around the world, it's inconceivable today that some human beings are still being considered inferior to others, and I'm of course referring here to India's caste system. How do you address this in your work, and can the issue of child labor be really touched on? Can it be eradicated when you haven't addressed this fundamental issue of the caste system in India, where some individuals are seen as inferior to others?
Well,
how do you deal with it?
This kind of social and cultural discrimination is existing in different parts of the world in different forms. In India, in Pakistan, in Nepal, in Bangladesh, the caste system is predominant. Even it's more dominant than the religious and faith beliefs. So that is a serious issue. Most of the child slaves and child laborers in that region hail from lowest caste in the caste-ridden society. They could be Muslims, they could be Hindus, whatever, but they originally come from the low caste, and that is a big challenge. But what is happening now, wherever we are able to get education and the children are getting education, that is diluting the caste sentiments, and that is resulting in empowerment of the people, even those who are born in low caste, but they are marrying the so-called high caste people. So that major shift is coming as a result of education.
All right. Let's talk about your work globally, Kailash, because you also head up the Global March Against Child Labour, which works in about 140 countries, I believe. You know, but there are some industries, like the textile industries, in countries like Bangladesh, just to name a few, where it's extremely difficult to get rid of you know, the child labour. And it's not just because there's a tendency to blame the governments in developing countries, but it's not just that, is it? I mean, the multinational companies in the developed world also have a responsibility to make sure that they're not making money off of children. How do you address that? I mean, are you working also with these multinational companies?
Well, this is a serious problem. The modern day slavery in the world also perpetuates because of the supply chain for the multinational brands. That happens in South Asia, but that happens in Latin America, in East Asia, in Central Asia in some parts, and also in Africa, where the multinational brands go and look for the cheap source of labor. And normally the cheapest source of labor are children. Most of the multinational companies don't engage children as child laborers, but they are dependent on the supply chain. So some of them know and some of them don't know.
Many of them turn a blind eye to it.
Some of them think that they can do some philanthropical work, and they can do some sort of window dressing, and they can find some way out. But some are serious to solve the problem. But the complications come when there's a long chain of suppliers, so supply chain, production chain, and so on. Like garment industry, like carpet industry was one of them. Chocolate industry is another industry where I have been working. So I had started working on the issue of child slavery and child labor in India, Pakistan, and Nepal to solve the problem in carpet industry, rugs industry many years ago. And that has resulted in decrease of child labor from 1 million in mid-90s to almost 300,000 or less than 300,000 in 10 years' time.
So there's a decrease, you said.
That is a decrease in carpet industry as a result of collective efforts of industry, civil society organizations, some UN agencies, and so on. We have gone through proper monitoring mechanism, certification and labeling system, and that has helped. And the consumers could find a solution to it. So is happening in case of chocolate industry, for instance. Though a huge number of children are still working as child slaves and child victims of child trafficking in Ivory Coast and Ghana and some other parts in Africa. But the number has decreased due to some collective efforts of industry and other groups.
You say there's a decrease in the numbers, but in some countries, but can you really get rid of the scourge, as you call it, when there's so much at stake financially?
Of course, it is.
Isn't it naive to bet that you can?
No. I tell you.
Get rid of it completely.
Yeah, sure. I will tell you that in late 90s or early 2000, the number of child laborers in the world was 260 million. The latest figures say that it is 168 million. The number which was just increasing, it started decreasing. So the trend is reversed in child labor. Also in education, the number of out-of-school children has been increasing, and it has reached up to 130 million in late 90s. And that is now only 57 or 58 million, the latest figure. So both in terms of child labor and also out-of-school children, it is a decrease. And it's a good sign. The governments cannot ignore it anymore. The corporate world cannot simply put a blind eye. Of course, it's challenging. It's not easy. If everything was easy, then why I am sitting here? So it's a challenging task, but my own experience prove that it is possible. It is achievable.
And I know your focus is child labor, but I do want to address the rights and plight of migrant workers in the Gulf region. For instance, this is a region that has welcomed, of course, many migrant workers, many Indians. A lot of them have made their fortunes here in this region. But a lot have also faced humiliation, poverty, suffering, death in many cases. What should be done to protect the rights of these migrant workers?
Unfortunately, or whatever reason, I am not involved in it. So I had no much knowledge, and so I cannot say anything with authority. But definitely, human rights are universal, and the rights of every person have to be protected everywhere in the world. Wherever they go to work or wherever they go to earn their livelihood or money, they must.
Whose responsibility is it to protect them?
It's a global responsibility. It's the responsibility of the whole international community to ensure that every person is protected. Every person is ensured freedom and dignity and all human rights which are mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Kailash Satyarthi, thank you so much for talking to Al Jazeera. Thank you.
My pleasure.